this tutorial, we're going to get the model prepped and ready for ZBrush. So please make sure you watch this one. This goes through a lot of information, and I want to make sure you guys are not skipping any steps. All right, so on the last one, we duplicate special, and then we merge all these vertices. Make sure those are showing up as 1, not as 2 or 4, or whatever issues you have. Make sure it's clean. Again, if you want to show me your model, that's fine, and I can give you a clean FBX. It's no worries to me. I just want to make sure you guys have understand how to do cube modeling. All right, so first thing we want to do is delete by type history. Okay, this will make it nice and light. So if we bring it into a game engine, this is nice and light. Now, so I'm going to go ahead and freeze transformation for good luck. Not sure what that does, but that'll help us. Again, when you did the mirror or duplicate special, and then we mirrored it on either side, that made it perfectly symmetrical. So when we get into ZBrush, when we start modeling, this is very, very key. If you don't have that, it's going to be problematic. All right, so now we want to go ahead and export this out. And don't export all, because we actually have the old Cricut underneath it. We don't want that, we just want this. So export selection. Again, make sure you listen to this once and then try it on your own. Go to the dialog box, and we want OBJ. You may have FBX on from last time, but OBJ is what we want. From export selection, and I already did a grasshopper. I'm going to go ahead and go over that. So I'm going to replace it, say yes. All right, just make sure you know where it's going, and you make sure you keep this as low because you're actually going to use this down the road. All right, so we've got our grasshopper. We could have done one other thing, and let's do that really quickly. Let's hit edge. I'm sorry, I should have shown you this before we export it. Go to edge, and we're going to go to mesh, and we're going to go to soften edges. So let me look for that really quick. So we have edge here. Go to mesh tools, and we want to soften edge. All right. So if I go to my object mode, you can see that hard edge is gone. So once we bring this into Unreal Game Engine, this is actually soft. It's a subdivisional look. So we took all those edges and softened them. So this is really important. Again, make sure you watch this once all the way through and take notes, because this is going to help you get a really high resolution normal map baked onto the soft edge, so we can get away with murder when we go in to bring this into Unreal. We're going to do a low polygon. This thing is down to like 1,300 polygons, super light. And so we're going to bake on millions of polygons onto the surface. So make sure you right click, select all the edges, and hit soft edge, or what was it? Soften edge, okay? And again, go back to object mode. We're gonna rinse and repeat this again, I'm sorry. And we're gonna export selection. Again, gonna override that, say yes. All right, so now we have this thing that is softened. It's a mathematical formula that we use to soften that edge, so it does look like a subdivisional look. All right, so now we're going to jump into ZBrush, and hopefully everyone has that now. I know it was kind of complicated to get that into your computer, and also it's going to make it run hard. So if you have a kind of a weaker system, we may have to find some other ways of using other computers. All right, so what we want to do is we're in ZBrush, and we're going to go ahead and hit import. We don't want to load a tool. We're going to import, and the wheel death should come up. And I'm going to go to desktop and go to my grasshopper, and I did save it in a folder called ZBrush and low poly, and grab the OBJ. I accidentally did FBX earlier. It does do FBX, but again, go to object, make sure you're importing on OBJ instead of a FBX. All right, so this mesh contains non-standard polygons, more than 4 sides. And I'm not sure where that is coming from, I did double check to make sure everything was quads, but it'll fix it. Just hit quads and triangles. I think it always does this. Maybe it's just the way it does. All right, so you're not going to see anything. You're going to click and drag and let go. All right, immediately, I mean immediately, you're going to have to quit ZBrush and do it over because Apple Z or undo won't do it. You're going to go immediately to edit. All right, I'm going to repeat that 4 times. Right after you drag and click, don't click on anything because you'll start randomly putting other crickets in here. If you click again, you'll put another one and another one and another one, and you'll literally have to quit ZBrush. So go right up to edit, and this gets you locked in here. All right, some of the things to talk a little bit about the interface, and then if you hit shift while going around, it'll lock it into those ortho views. I think it may even do, no, doesn't do a perspective. All right, so that will lock it in. All right, this is totally different from Maya. You'll want to hit Alt and stuff like that. It doesn't work like that. So to spin it around, you're gonna have to go click on outside it in the black area. And if you want to spin it around and you're too close, you have to come over here and rotate. So this over here are your friends. So you move around here, and we can hit frame. And this is the circumstance where if I wanted to twist it, there's not enough black space to spin it. So you rotate like that. All right, so we're gonna frame it again. And we're gonna zoom out. You can zoom in and out just like that. And what we're gonna do is hit X. Again, watch all this all the way through, because if you don't start modeling immediately with symmetry, you basically not gonna have a good model. All right, so once I hit that X and I start clicking the button, it'll start to inflate it. So we're using a standard tool. So I'm gonna hit Apple Z, up, and I wanna redo that. Hopefully I don't have to rinse and repeat this. Let's see. All right, so up here we have your undo button. All right, so we went back to where we imported it, and we're going back to before I start using my standard tool. All right, so I'm just going over some simple buttons. Again, I'm using my mouse right now. I'm not even using my tablet yet, okay? I'm kind of old school. I kind of like using the mouse and then jumping to the tablet when I'm start to sculpt, all right? But I do like to use the mouse to kind of move around. And you'll get better at it where you won't have to use the mouse. You'll start really getting used to using just the Wacom tablet, okay? So one of the first things we have to tackle is the UV map, all right? So right off the bat, if we go into our subtool, you can see that we have a grasshopper here. Normally we would clone it. Sometimes it'll ask you to clone what you have, but since we already have just one object, we're gonna go ahead, go to our Z plugin, and we're gonna go to our UV master, okay? And we have symmetry on, and we're gonna hit unwrap. All right, we could say work on clone, but let's go ahead and let's see what happens. All right, so work on clone. And then we're gonna hit unwrap. All right, so we're working on a clone. And so our clone, this is our original, and then here's our clone. All right, so we have our clone up on the screen, and we're gonna go down and go to our UV map. And we want to make sure that we have it UV mapped correctly. All right, so we're going to go ahead and hit, let's see, poly paint. What do we want to do? Poly paint, we don't want that. UV map, texture map. We're going to hit create, and we're going to hit new from UV map. All right, so the reason why I did that, because I want to show you how quickly that was. All right, so remember the headache that we did with the dumpster, and we had to get all those faces nice and flat. Well, this is a little bit different. This is an organic model, and what UV Master does is flays it. So it's basically slicing it down in different areas of the Cricut and then flaying it flat. Okay, but we do want to make sure it's doing it. So that's why I'm just throwing on new from UV maps. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the texture off, but we know we did it. It's turning up white. We can change this color back to our basically clay color, which is kind of nice to model. That's how I've always modeled in the past. And so we're going to go ahead and turn that off. The next thing what we want to do is on our geometry. So right now we have a very low polygon. We looked at it, it was like about under 1400 polygons, right? Very, very lightweight. And so we want to divide this. I'm going to divide it 5 times. I don't think you need to go any higher than that, but that is basically in the subdivisional range. And you can see how many points we have. We have less than 500,000, 350,000 points. So I would go ahead and hit it one more time for good luck. All right, so now we're in the 1.4 million polygons. That is huge. So if you tried to bring this into Maya, it would simply crash. It would not be able to handle it. All right. So one of the key features again is make sure X is on, and you can see that little red dot on the other side is doing the symmetry. You want to make sure that is on. So if I start clicking on here, it's going to start bulging everywhere and so forth. All right, so that was just a quick test, and I can go back in time, either Command Z or just use this little tab to go back and forth. All right, so sometimes we don't want this at subdivision 6. So sometimes we need to do some radical moves. So we can hit Shift D, and you can see over here it goes all the way down to my subdivision 1. So why would I want to do that? So I'm going to show you basically the only brushes you really need to do for this lesson is clay buildup, and smooth, which is a shift with the clay buildup, standard, and also the move tool. And the move tool looks like a little drop of clay right here. And I'm going to click on that. All right, so the move tool is not adding any geometry. It's either you can kind of push in, and I'm doing this with my mouse. I'm not even on my stylus yet. You can push in and out, and it's very simple. So if you just wanted to work with proportions really quickly, maybe it's not sitting in there right, and I want to pull this out, I can pull this. Maybe the head needs to be bigger, and then I can hit my D and go up on my subdivision. If I didn't like that, I can hit Shift D and go to a little bit less polygon. All right, so this is really quickly, especially when you start getting into highly detailed work, this is an easy way to pull out all that detail work at once instead of having to redo all that detail work. All right, so I'm going to go back in time. I'm just going to hit my Shift button. All right. And sometimes it's hard to tell where I started. All right, so get used to Shift D. You're going to use that a lot. And D, and you can hit D one more time. It'll divide it to subdivision 7, but you don't want that. You just want to go up to 6. I think that's enough for this project. So you can see when I move it, because it goes to kind of a faceted edges, and then I let go to that smooth. It's just a mathematical way of showing this 1.4 million polygons. All right, so I'm going to kind of stop there. Again, make sure you export it out correctly and make sure those edges are smooth. That way when we get into the Unreal Game Engine, everything is smooth. Also, when you import it in, make sure you go to that edit feature that is prime, or you just have to start the whole process over again. And then clone it and work on basically UV Master to do it really quickly. We did it in less than 1 second versus 2 hours of swearing. So do it really quickly, and then check to make sure you have texture by going down to the texture map and looking and adding a texture to it and just double checking. All right, you do want to get it up to the 1.4 million, and that was up here in divide, and that was in our geometry. All right, so I'm going to stop it here. It's a good place to stop, but make sure everyone gets to this point. And if you don't feel confident in your model and you bring it in here and there's like, there may be holes showing up or maybe a hard edge, just stop and just say, Mr. Tucker, I would love to have a clean model, and I'll be happy to give it to you. Just show me what you have, and I want everyone to have a nice watertight product. All right, I want to stop it here.